Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much. I must sincerely apologize for the delay. We came today subsequent to the release of the state capture report that was issued by the outgoing, drafted by the former public protector, Methuli Madonsela, and now issued on to the new public protector, Advocate Mkhweba. As you know, we laid an original complaint to the public protector raising the fact that on the basis of the report by Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas and also Feki Mentor, former MP, to say that there were clear acts where public trust and public funds were being deviated illegally. It's now become a matter of common cause subsequent to the release of the state of capture report. We internalized the report and have done a lot of diagnosis around it. One of the key issues that emerged from it is that two incidents at least are highlighted. Firstly, the president was very aware of the transactions that were taking place with the Guptas, and certainly in his instruction, as is stated in the public protector report, there was a clear instruction given to the former director of communications to say now funds must be deviated and government advertising must be given to the New Age newspaper. That, in our view, is a case of inducement. Also, the fact that Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas raised the complaint to us is a contravention when you look at the PACA Act, which is the Prevention Against Corrupt Activities Act, which became quite clear that if the president knowingly knew about the nature of the cases, he should have done something, and already the state capture report highlights that he was in violation of the executive ethics code. But furthermore, we believe it constitutes criminal act. No South African, regardless of whatever position they are in, as stipulated in the law, if you know clearly that an act is being committed here that is criminal in its nature, you are then obliged to do something about that and take action. Certainly the president failed in this regard. We believe that his direct actions in instructing that in fact funds must be deviated to the New Age is an act of inducement. So today I met with the police here. We've opened a case against President Jacob Zuma. We believe the case number is been issued to us already. It's case number 70/11/2016. Our affidavit has already been compiled with the police. The steps that will take place from henceforth are such that priority crime must then take its own full action here. The police station here will compile the affidavit, the docket, so that it's handled by the provincial police. We will not rest until, in fact, Jacob Zuma accounts for what we believe are very strong criminal acts. These are acts of corruption which steal away from the livelihood of the people of our country. And ultimately, we believe action must be taken. Now, I know many people might ask the question to say, why aren't you waiting for the state capture report to undergo its own judicial process? Well, that's a separate process entirely. That process will deal with the state capture report, as will Parliament, as will the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. These, in law, is permissible that parallel processes might take place. What today needed to happen was the criminal actions against Jacob Zuma and his allies. We've laid further cases. Furthermore, in the affidavit, we are quite clear that people like Msebenzi Zwane, Des van Rooyen, Jacob Zuma's cronies effectively must then be further investigated. Inter alia Selim Asesa, Mr. Linda Mabaso, Malcolm Mabaso, Duduzane Zuma, and Eric Wood, members of the Gupta family, must also be investigated in this regard. The reason we came to this police station is equally so because in proximity, at least is the closest one to Saxonwell, that we make sure the Saxonwell case is open here, because that constitutes, in our view, the scene of the crime, not the Saxonwell Chevine, the compound on number 1 Saxonwell Drive. So this case, I've been given assurance that deliberate action will be taken by the police, and that subsequent to that, I'll be able to meet with the necessary criminal officers to make sure that this matter is followed up in its entirety. We will not rest. Jacob Zuma attended a wedding at Sun City with the Guptas. He will spend, after his presidency, Sun City there near Soweto.
Mr. Maimane, what exactly are the charges?
In this case, we believe there is a clear contravention. The charge is in effect a charge of corruption. Because as laid out in the Parker Act, if you knowingly understand something to be criminal and you do nothing about it and you yourself direct criminal activity, that is a clear case of corruption. So we are laying cases of corruption against Jacob Zuma.
What faith do you have that it will actually be investigated, given that you also lay criminal charges when it comes to the Nkandla matter?
As you know, I've been fighting even with the Ministry of Police to say I want a full investigation done on the matter of the Nkandla cases. I then met with the two detectives who came from the Hawks, who then were working on the respective case. And we will not rest. You see, the important principle here is also to expose the hypocrisy with which Jacob Zuma's administration works. Mantuli, on the basis of allegation, now there's a case against her. But when it comes to Jacob Zuma, it's kind of, there can be no investigation. It's a hypocrisy in our criminal system, and we can't rest until we take the full action around that. So we want it to be clear. I have faith in the belief that the provincial office will take this matter. We will not rest. I'll take the matter further on in Parliament, and I want to make sure that the criminal elements will ensure that Jacob Zuma is prosecuted. Now, let me also say this. The wheels of justice might be slow, but they do turn. And as many of you know, even the matter of Nkandla was reported a long time ago. It took a while before it got to the Constitutional Court until Jacob Zuma must pay. I'm not expecting that this case will be resolved next week, but I will spend time to make sure any crime that takes place in South Africa is accounted for. So we have absolute faith. The police must do their job. If they fail to do so, we will compel them through the legal system to force them to make sure they are doing their work.
Mr. Maimane, can I get your reaction on the Constitutional Court's dismissal of your application for direct access in a bid to challenge the Cabinet's decision to withdraw from the Rome stage of ICC?
Can we deal with the state capture questions first, and then we can come to that?
I'll make sure I respond to that.
Mr. Maimane, Themba Maseko is the complainant with regard to the advertising issue in the state capture report. Have you got buy-in from him on this matter, or are you relying solely on the state capture report?
We have to deal with the state capture report, and in this instance, because we're dealing with the president, we have evidence in the state capture report that said he directed Themba Maseko to act in a particular manner. The matter about where Mr. Maseko's rights will be protected and dealt with must then follow the Judicial Commission of Inquiry as stipulated in the state capture report. So his rights will be protected there. It's the same as Mcebisi Jonas. It's the same as all the other. And I want to applaud people like Feki Mentor. These are courageous individuals who, for whatever reason it is, they felt the courage to raise this particular matter. So on that score, I will allow the judicial process to go through. I, as a citizen of South Africa, representing, because the law makes it quite clear that I represent a constituency in South Africa of multiple voters. They have an interest in that the criminal process then takes its own course. So in this instance, I believe we must take the action directly to Jacob Zuma.
Other questions?
Mr. Maimane, the state of capture report was compiled by the former public protector, but it is the property of the public protector office. And when the Judicial Commission of Inquiry is instituted, don't you see maybe a problem when the current public protector or whoever is called upon to testify with regards to this report, since the DA had no confidence in her being appointed public protector?
Look, the report, and this is the important distinction, is that the report as tabled by the former public protector is final. This was the subject of the court case that we took Jacob Zuma on, because he kept arguing, no, but the report is not final. So it's on that basis that the Judicial Commission of Inquiry must then proceed. You can't then subject the current report to further scrutiny unless you then take further action to a court and then have that interrogated, to which those rights Jacob Zuma has. But he hasn't written anything about it, he hasn't done anything about it. That's why we've taken further action around what Parliament must do, what the police must do, and then ultimately it's very prescriptive as to how you can set up the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, of which I would anticipate, as the original author of the report, Ms. Matonsela, must also account for the wording that takes place there. That's why there's transparency, and I think one of the things that we've fought for as a party, you can recall even in the Hlaudi Motswaneng matter, the the Nkandla matter, was that we fought for the enforcement of remedial action. And the remedial action as prescribed there is a prescribe of law. And so the president does not have room unless he wants to challenge it in a different court. To which I can assure him today, we are ready. If he wants to go to court, we'll take him on, because he must account for these issues.
Mr. Maimane, Gordon, Nene, and Jonas, are they part of this case that you've just opened?
We are not laying charges against them. The question here is about that Judicial Commission of Inquiry. That must proceed, because their evidence must come, particularly around why the minister was changed in December, why, in fact, there are many other elements when you read broadly the state capture report as to who else was involved. Our biggest fear as South Africans, and I say this is something that all of us must take cognizance of. What the report lays bare is that state capture wasn't just simply a project of Jacob Zuma. It was a project of corruption and racketeering at the highest level that involves people like Brian Molefe. In fact, even the ANC, as to how ministers were appointed, boards were appointed. So there's a broad issue. That's why a commission of inquiry deals further with state capture. The separation of issues are, where do the matters become criminal? That's what we are going to. And whatever the commission of inquiry recommends will be a separate matter, which we'll deal with once that's constituted. But at this point in time, my key concern is that if any citizen, any individual was acting in a manner that is criminal, surely there must be criminal prosecution against that. And my worry in South Africa is that Jacob Zuma is being treated with kitted gloves and protected by the very institutions that must protect us, the people of this country.